And here we can see this player move to the top and their spine starts bending too far to the right, okay? Meaning the spine tips back too much and they dump out. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you some exercises into how you can turn a little bit more central to the top, leading to much better ball striking. So let's get into it. So some of the things I would tend to see in the backswing that would lead to some poor striking is when the spine turns too much in flexion or forward bend. So what I mean by that is the spine can work in a couple of ways. And one of the main ways it works is in flexion, so where the spine bends forward, or extension, where the spine lengthens and gets taller. Now, some of the things I would typically see from some of the poorer ball strikers is as they work to the top of their swing, they would be too much in flexion. So this is where the spine is leaning or bending too much forward. And as I do that, you'll see that as I bend or do a sit-up or a crunch in my stomach here, you'll see two things. You'll see my head goes down and you'll see it goes to the right. Now from here, unless the player's pretty good at shifting back on and rotating, it's quite difficult for them to get back to center. So what they would typically do from this position here is either slide to the target, meaning the spine tips back too much and they dump out, or they purely try and get back but can't quite manage it and they're still in a little bit of forward bend and they really struggle that way too. So I'm going to show you some exercises that can really help with that. But before I do that though, take a look at this player here. This is generated on AI Sportsbox. It's an application that you can get on your phone that will allow you to measure different body parts based on AI technology. And here we can see this player move to the top and their spine starts bending too far to the right, okay? So what we're really looking for is this player to have their spine lengthen a little bit and move a little bit more central. So by adding in some of the extension part, where as you work to the top, you feel like your spine is almost peeling a little bit to the target. That will allow your chest to aim a little bit higher. Level would be ideal. And as I do that, that will move my head more to the left and my spine more to the left, rather than aiming my chest down to the ground. And you can see here how that moves my head down and to the right. So if we take a look at this player here, you'll see how much they're able to keep their head nice and centered and extend their spine. So pay attention to the forward bend number here. You'll see that's so much more reduced than the other player. You'll see that their spine has actually worked more this way, only achieving a few degrees of forward bend this way over the other player that had bundles of that. And you can imagine after seeing the player where his head is way behind the ball, that's going to be incredibly difficult to compress the ball, maintain any sort of loft, which is then going to affect trajectory, and it's really going to affect strike. So I hope that makes a lot of sense. So one of my favorite drills for this is just grabbing a resistance band, and you're going to place the resistance band in each hand like so, and you're going to put one part on the top of your belt line, and you're going to put the next part, you're not going to stretch the band, but pretty much just in the center of your chest. The goal here is as I make a turn, so a full 90-degree turn to the top, I'm going to feel like I stretch the band. So it's going to feel like my lower and upper pieces are separating a little bit as I do this. So as I work to the top and I start rotating, I'm going to feel like I gently stretch the band. You can see now that allows my chest to point a little higher. What we see a lot of people do is as they start to work to the top, they would actually shrink the band. Their head would move down to the right. The band would start to create some slack. So as they turn, we want to feel that extension and pulling that better here. And you can see that as I do that, my spine stays over the middle here. Now, for a lot of people, as they do that, that's going to feel very much like a reverse pivot where you're tilting this way. But as long as your hips don't sway to the right, that shouldn't happen. So as long as your hips stay somewhat centered as you do this, so you can see me exaggerating, pushing that there, that will be extremely helpful. So my next drill, you might feel like you've got a flashlight or a torch, but I've just got a pen here to represent this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop the club in my right hand and I'm going to put the pen in the center of my sternum like so. So again, what we'd see a lot of people do is as they work to the top, they would be pointing that pen way too low. I guess in an ideal scenario, we would be wanting to point that pen as I made a 90-degree turn, pointing that pen somewhat at the horizon. But for those of you that feel like you point it quite low, you'll probably want to feel like you point it to the upper right part of your room here. So big 90-degree turn as I point the pen a little higher, and you'll see my centers are much more stacked on top of each other. From these positions here, it's so much easier to find contact. Things we do know is that impact, the head for an iron, the head is pretty much back on its original starting point, and the pelvis has moved a little bit forward and a little bit open. Of course, if my chest is pointing down and to the right and my head sways off here, achieving those impact parameters are going to be quite difficult. So here's another really good drill for you to really practice. So I'm going to put those into play now. So I'm going to hit a few shots for you just to try and feel that. So again, if I did this incorrectly, rotate to the top, feeling my chest quite low, I feel like my head is way behind the ball. I'm going to dunk out here. So for me, again, just feeling the one that I felt probably the best was stretching the band. So as I work to the top here, I'm going to rotate, feeling like I stretch that band a little bit. And then from there, I can shift into my lead side. And that's really going to move my low point again forward, hitting ball, then turf. So turning first, extending. That was a really, really nice contact. And I tell you what I noticed there, the golf ball come out a lot lower for me there. I was able to cover the ball so much better, and the trajectory was definitely different for me there. And again, do it one more time. Feeling like I'm stretching that band as I turn. Makes me feel nice and centered. Again, a really crisp strike there with a lower ball flight. So I hope that makes a lot of sense into how you can change the way the spine extends or flexes to change where your head is. It's a really good anti-sway technique. Again, you saw that if I get it wrong, my head sways over here, not necessarily my lower half, but my upper half. And just by feeling that extension of the spine there, it was so easy to keep everything stacked over each other and then separating into impact, allowing my hips to get forward and strike after the golf ball 100% of the time. So thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it the thumbs up, and if you could subscribe to my channel, it would really help and mean a lot. So thanks, and I'll see you soon.